We're now more than halfway through the 2023 disc golf season, and we've learned a lot so far. There's the obvious. Kristin Tattar is good at disc golf. Calvin Heimburg is also good at disc golf, but hidden beyond the obvious, we can find some interesting statistics and storylines that show us how the 2023 season has been shaped, that tell us the state of our game as it is in the present, and that tell us why the second half of the season is going to be so incredibly exciting. My name is Mason, and welcome to The Wind Read. Today, I want to do a mid-season checkup. Let's take stock of what's happened so far this year. Let's look at some of the interesting stats and stories we've missed, and let's briefly preview the second half of the season where legacies are made. Let's review. 2023 kicked off at the Las Vegas Challenge with an underrated and very close battle through the final 9 between Calvin Heimburg and Kevin Jones, where Calvin ultimately prevailed. It, in my opinion, was a stamp on the season, a statement win from Calvin out the gate to tell the disc golf world that 2023 was going to be his. And so far, for the most part, it has been. In FPO, Katrina Allen won wire to wire, and she won almost easily, a fact that makes more sense when you consider that neither Kristin Tattar nor Paige Pierce were in attendance. Still, Katrina's performance was impressive, averaging over 1,000 rated disc golf through the first 3 rounds. She probably would have won anyway, who knows? It is interesting that this was Katrina's only win so far on the season. She recently had a streak of finishes outside the top 10 until her 9th place finish at the Portland Open. We will see if Katrina can close out the season with another win under her belt. Then we went to Waco, where we witnessed, in my opinion, one of the best events of the year so far. A ridiculous finish in FPO between the emerging Ella Hansen and Kristin Tattar. An OB throw on 18 from Ella and a clutch putt from Kristin gave Tattar the title at her first tournament of the year. And on the MPO side, we saw a storyline that's played out again and again and again over the course of 2023. Heading into the final round, there were 11 players within 3 strokes of the lead. It was anyone's game. Who was going to have that insane, lights-out final round to take home the title? In Waco, it was Kyle Klein, birdieing all but 5 holes in the final round to secure the Waco victory. This kicked off a staggering string of chase card finishes, proving that MPO is more competitive than ever. Next was the Open at Austin, where from the chase card, Gannon Buhr took it down. It was his first Elite Series win, and at the young age of 18, Gannon now has a silver title, a major title, and since this past weekend, 2 elite titles. We've seen prodigious talent in disc golf, but Gannon Buhr is something else entirely. In FPO, we expected a showdown in the final round between Kristin and Paige, but honestly, Kristin kind of fell off, shooting 5 over par while Paige remained consistent, and the 5-time added yet another trophy to her collection. At the Music City Open, Simon Lizotte proved that 2022 was no fluke by placing himself firmly in the winner's circle once again from the chase card. All the while, Kristin did what Kristin does, winning by 5 strokes and shooting 1,000 rated disc golf. What's new? Then it was time for a change of pace to the wooded technicality of W.R. Jackson for our first major of the year. The disc golf played that weekend was beautiful. We watched Silas Schultz emerge, and Owen Scoggins was carving fairways, and Niklas Antila made a run, but it didn't matter. Kristin Tattar and Isaac Robinson decided not to make it close for their competition. Kristin continued her major dominance while Isaac cemented himself as one of the best wooded disc golfers on the planet all the way to his first major title. Next was the Jonesboro Open, where the hometown hero Kat Mertsch finally got hers in a playoff win over Haley King. At MPO, Calvin Heimburg went back-to-back at Jonesboro, undoubtedly cementing his place as number 1 in the world. Then we went to the West Coast, starting off at the OTB Open. Despite heroics in the final round from Gannon Buhr, we witnessed an underdog story. Emerson Keith played some of the best disc golf of his career and rightfully earned his first Elite Series title many years in the making. In FPO, Paige Pierce played firing on all cylinders, most notably in the second round where she shot 12 down, a stunning 1034 rated round on her way to a second tournament win on the season. Next was Portland, where Kristin Tattar made her return with full force, winning handedly on the evergreen fairways of Glendoveer. In MPO, we had a dogfight down the stretch with Hammes and Gossage and Proctor and Ellis all fighting tooth and nail for that elusive Elite Series title. In the biggest moments though, with lights out putting from C2 in the final round, Adam Hammes rose above the rest in a playoff win over Aaron Gossage. Then in Emporia at the Dynamic Disc Open, another great underdog story unfolded as Parker Welk, a name that many were unfamiliar with, took down the crown. He was the 72nd ranked player in the world heading into DDO. That is the lowest ranked player to ever win an Elite Series or Major since the official rankings began in 2005. He never even had a top 15 at an Elite Series or Major event at this point, but he marched into Emporia and somehow took it down. After the playoff loss at Jonesboro, Hailey King had her retribution at DDO, winning narrowly over Holland Hanley, who's been on the come up all year long. And last, we just recently had the Des Moines Challenge. In FPO, it's the story we've heard again and again, and that is the preeminence of Kristin Tattar. Do not blink. This type of dominance in any sport never lasts forever. It's incredible getting to watch Kristin play at this high of a level in real time. In MPO, we only had 2 rounds, but I honestly didn't think it would have mattered. Gannon Buhr, a week removed from missing cash, won from all angles. We are seeing the birth of a superstar right before our eyes. We're halfway through the season, and in MPO, we've had a ridiculous 8 unique winners at Elite Series and Major events. This is not normal. In the last 5 years, the average number of unique winners at Elite Series and Major events is 9 for the entire season. We're already almost there, and we have an entire second half of 2023 still to go. And think about the names that have yet to win on the Elite Series or Major level. Ricky Wysocki, Paul McBeth, Chris Dickerson, and Eagle McMahon, just to name a few. The field is tighter than ever. That said, there still is one clear frontrunner, and that is Calvin Heimburg. Calvin is far and away the Pro Tour point standings leader. He's finished in the top 10 in all but one event, and his podium percentage is absurd. Heimburg is without a doubt the frontrunner for Player of the Year, but we've got a lot of disc golf left. Being at the midway point of the season, I think it might be interesting to look back at some of the players that are leading in certain statistical categories so far this year. Some of this may be surprising and some not at all. Let's first look at the throwing stats. This includes fairway hits, parked percentage, C1 in regulation, and C2 in regulation. In MPO, unsurprisingly, Calvin Heimburg is leading in all of these statistics but one. Matty O barely edges him out in the parked percentage metric. In FPO, Kristin leads the field in fairway hits and C2 in regulation. However, the highest park percentage of the year goes to Henna Blomroos, and the highest C1 in regulation statistic goes to Evelina Salonen. These 2 young Finns throw the disc at the highest of levels if only their putting could match. Just last year, Evelina Salonen led the division in 3 of these 4 throwing metrics. Let's now move on to putting. Once again, Andrew Marweed is outputting everyone from C1X. He's currently sitting at 91%, and if you don't remember, he led the tour in this exact same statistic last year. It is unbelievable how consistent Marweed putts year after year from C1X. Your C2 putting leader in MPO is none other than Gannon Buhr at an impressive 40% rate. In FPO, surprise, surprise, once again, Ohn Scoggins is your C1X putting leader, and from C2 you have Arya Castruita leading the division at 20%. But these numbers will change. In my mind, the early half of the season is for tone setting. It's for racking up Pro Tour points and consistent finishes and chasing down Elite Series trophies. But the back half of the season is where careers are defined. We still got 3 majors wholly up for grabs, and the possibilities of how this all could shake out are limitless. Will Kristin Tattar continue her dominance? Will Calvin finally secure a major? Will Ricky or Paul return to true form under the spotlight? Which young names that are still unknown to many are waiting in the wings for their shot at glory? The second half of the season is now upon us, and I cannot wait to watch how it all plays out here on the Disc Golf Network. Thank you so much for joining me on the Wind Read. Until the next one.